Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Talk today. This is our February committer office hours update. I will start by warning you that I discovered the create QR code for this page feature. So this presentation features a number of QR codes if you want to find things related to the presentation materials. Standard disclaimers. This presentation is brought to you today by the Eclipse Tycho project, a Maven-centric manifest-first approach to building Eclipse platform plugins, OSGI bundles, and so forth. Before we get into the main topic, I wanted to ask you to please, if you have not done so already, could you please take this survey based on the committer survey that we ran last year. It was stated that by committers that having assistance with the marketing of their project was a high priority. And if you look at this list, there's a lot of different variations of this on the list of things that committers told us were important. So the marketing team has responded and is looking for more help to determine how to best help you get the message out about your project. So please complete the survey. I've sent out this link to the committers, I guess at least twice at this point, so it's there. And of course, there's a beautiful QR code here to find it if you just want to do it right now. I'll also use this opportunity to let you know that we are in the process of applying for Google Summer of Code again this year. We've done this since 2006. And the idea here is that Google will fund student development to work on an open source project. The way to think about this, though, is not as free work. This is an opportunity to build a relationship with a student, to build some mind share around your project. Get some work done. But this requires effort. This requires mentoring from you to be successful. Again, the point is to hopefully find students who will at some point become contributors to, in the long term, become contributors to your project, or just developing mind share and awareness, just growing awareness of your project, and in the meantime, helping a student understand how the world really works. The call to action for you is we need ideas. Right now, last time I checked, we had 7 project ideas for students. The idea is that students will come to our ideas page to figure out what kinds of student projects they should propose. And then there's a whole process of accepting proposals. Once you get involved, we'll step you through that. And Maria Therese is our main point of contact with that program. As far as I'm aware, we haven't been accepted yet, but our application is, I think, relatively strong, so we should do well this year. But more ideas are better than fewer. I've talked at length about this multiple occasions. Committer badges are available if you want your fancy Eclipse committer badge, which it turns out is statistically significant number of people who have accepted the badge have added to their LinkedIn profiles, and you can too. Please send a note to EMO Records requesting the badge, and Sean will set you up. I need you all to please keep thinking about and creating SBOMs. If you need any help with this, please reach out, and I will help where I can. I'm going to start throwing some pull requests at some projects to help them along. We have a handful of projects right now, I think approaching 25, that are generating SBOMs and pushing them out to Maven Central. We are looking at looking for other places. If you are publishing your SBOMs somewhere, say on NPM.js, if you could let us know, that would be great, so that we can account for them. It's also, again, just make sure that you are thinking about security. We are standing up an entirely new team here at the Eclipse Foundation focused on security. They are working on securing our own resources to make sure that our supply chain is as secure as possible. We believe that we are the most um, the most secure open source uh, foundation, certainly in terms of the resources that the foundation is providing. We think these are, of course, very important as we move forward into this brave new world of supply chain hacks. But again, please make a point of following the best practices that we're developing. The security team is using the committers mailing list as a channel to inform you of things that are available, and they are engaging directly with some projects to work on their security postures and help where we can. I'll also use this opportunity to remind everybody that CVEs, or basically reporting known vulnerabilities to to a central authority. If you report a CVE um, to MITRE, it winds up getting into a system where GitHub knows about them and provides that's feedback into Dependabot. OWASP uses them, NIST uses them. There's just a way for the entire world to know about vulnerabilities and how to resolve them, or how to work around them, or whatnot. Uh, think of these as a badge of honor. When your project has a CVE, that means that at least somebody has tried to use your project in a serious scenario, and that's a good indication to the community that your project is real and people care about it. So I wanted to talk today about IPLab, and I think this topic is, I think this is relatively short for today. Our automation continues to improve. This IPLab is the back end part of the Dash license tool. The Dash license tool, many of you have discovered, is a tool that we use as part of our intellectual property due diligence process. The tool itself does not find dependencies, but it knows knows how to vet the license information for dependencies. There is a Maven plugin. The Maven plugin is very good at using the Maven reactor to find dependencies. Again, the tool itself doesn't really know how to find dependencies. It leverages, in the case of the Maven plugin, the Maven dependency resolution mechanism. In the case of NPM, it will scan a package lock file for you. It supports Go and all sorts of other package managers for identifying dependencies and finding the licenses for them. Again, doesn't identify dependencies. It knows how to take identified dependencies and figure out licensing. Sorry, was there a question? Nope. Okay, so the when the IP when Dash license tool finds something that it cannot, sorry, again, the Dash license tool doesn't find things. When something is identified to the Dash license tool and it cannot figure out the licensing information, there is a feature that that we have that will create a review request to the IP team. The IP team, basically has a queue. It's we call it IPLab. IPLab is effectively an issue tracker for a GitLab repository. It's more than effectively; it's exactly that. The idea is that the Dash license tool will create issues for you based on third-party dependencies that it discovers. Again, it doesn't discover third-party dependencies that for which it cannot find license information. As I said, sorry, I didn't say, but it does a very good job of very quickly identifying licenses. In many cases, when we get requests for reviews, we're able to uh, resolve those requests fairly quickly and provide and figure out license information for components. Expectation management is that hard problems are still hard. I was speaking with a member of the team earlier today about, we've every once in a while we find some GPL content buried in a dependency, and GPL is still, while it's no longer on our list of absolutely forbidden licenses, we still have to worry about compatibility between licenses, and specifically whether licenses work together in particular combinations. And when we find something GPL buried in the bottom, that usually winds up being a lot of work to figure out if it works from a licensing point of view. So corner cases remain a pain in the backside. Anyway, so the IPLab is an issue tracker. Requests for review by our IP team are just issues in that issue tracker. There is nothing particularly special about that issue tracker. Again, automatically created by the Dash license tool. We automatically will create review requests for project repositories while a project is in the initial contribution phase when a project is starting up. Requests for review can also be manually created. We can do reviews of merge requests or pull requests. We can do a review of an entire repository. We just have no automation in place to do those sorts of things at this point. I have the URL for IPLab down here at the bottom. So if, for example, you needed us to review a repository, and this might happen if you are acquiring new content, say a new contribution comes to the project, and that contribution is an entire repository, we would need to review that as part of our IP policy. So you can take that entire repository, and what I'm showing here is I've taken the top commit off of this repository, right button click, and I've copied the link address, right? So this is the address, the URL of the repository at a particular commit. From here, you can take that and manually create an issue in the IPLab using just that URL as the title, and give it a project. Tell us what the project is. If you give us those two pieces of information, we're basically done, and we can do everything else from that. We may, if we need help, we'll ask for it, but 80, 90, 99% of the time, this is all the information we need to initiate a review. In the past, we would have required that you wrestle that URL into a clearly defined ID, but we're moving on past that, and now various different forms are accepted, including the URL to a GitHub, directly to a GitHub repository. But again, we do need this to be for a particular commit. When we scan the repository, we're scanning it at a particular point. At some point in the future, you may want us to scan a different part in the repository, then that would come with a different ref on that URL. The PMI pointer down at the bottom, the project link in the description, we need that information more for tracking purposes. We just want to, we like to keep track of how projects are engaging us and whether or not projects are engaging us. That is the link to your project's main PMI page. If you don't know what that is, or are otherwise not quite sure how it's formed, we can help. We can just change that. The IP team can help with that. But if you can get that as correct as possible, that's super handy. This will all be reflected in the documentation, and it is to a large degree already done. We support a number of different formats for these requests. And it's the title. The title of the issue is what we use to figure out what to do with the request. So we can take a clearly defined ID, which is a 5-part divided by slashes ID. We can take a Maven Gav as the request URL. We can take a package URL as the request. And then, of course, we can also take the GitHub commit URL or a pull URL. And we're working on some GitLab support, which turns out it's not that hard, just we haven't done it yet. And again, we take these, this format, and it's the title, pardon me, it's the title of the issue that we're looking for as the content, the description of the content that you need to have reviewed. Some examples: clearly defined ID for Commons exec from Apache, the same package but expressed as a package URL. Again, the third one is the same package but expressed as a Maven Gav. The title of a URL in IPLab with any of these forms will force the review of that content. And then again, I have a pull request here, and I have a commit example. The example, I abbreviated the ref. We need the full ref at this point. We don't currently support abbreviated refs for commits. Of course, if you have content that's if you have specific content you want reviewed, Derby is an example of a project for which we actually have trouble finding the source. So here in this case, you can actually take when you're creating an issue in IPLab, you can drag and drop a zip file or a jar file or a tar file or a GZ file, whatever, any kind of archive format. You can drag and drop that onto the description, change the title, and markdown is in the square braces, change the title that it gives it to source, and that's the source that the IPLab tool will use to as part of its review. So that's really all I wanted to talk about today, was again just how to manually create reviews for IPLab. One of the important takeaways is when you bring an entire new repository or you bring new content into the project that hasn't been developed by committers, that's more than or maybe it's developed by somebody who's not a committer, but it's more than 1,000 lines of code in a form of a pull request, we actually need to review that. If it's an entire repository, we need to review that and make sure that we understand the licensing and the provenance of it. So please engage with us. We've tried to make this as easy as possible. Again, I'll just show the form again. Here we go. Where are we? Right. If you create an issue with a link to the content that's being contributed and the identification of your project, that's all the information we need, and we go from there. So again, when you do receive contributions, and the rules are unfortunately a little convoluted. If something is created by a committer, just in due course as part of their work as a committer, just have at it, push that into the repository, you're done. If something comes from a contributor who's not a committer and it's more than 1,000 lines, or it's fewer than 1,000 lines of code, then you can most likely commit it or merge it. If you receive something that's more than 1,000 lines of code, or maybe you're just not sure about it, you should engage the IP team by opening an IPLab review request. With that, I'm going to end the formal presentation and open up for questions. Just give me a second here.